Hi, and welcome to the Diamond Report for Friday, July 7th, 7/7/2017. This is your host, Doug Diamond. It is currently 11:59 p.m. Boy, I'm just barely squeaking in this Diamond Report for Friday the 7th, and welcome. I'm glad you are joining me. As you can tell, we're looking at Earthquake 3D in a spinning globe. Sorry to all of you flat earthers out there, but we do actually have a spinning globe, not a flat earth with a firmament. Sorry to break your bubble on that one, pun intended. So what we're looking at here right now is the last 48 hours of earthquakes globally. And I did not do a earthquake update nor a diamond report yesterday. I was simply too busy. I didn't have time to do it. So my apologies if you happen to be looking for it and didn't find the show. So tonight we're going to cover the news for the 6th and the 7th of July. Being as how we've reached the end of the news cycle, that should be pretty easy to do. The last Diamond Report did not have an earthquake update, and just within probably an hour or two after completing the show, because I pre-record these shows and then edit them and then let them render in the computer, which takes about 3 hours for a 20-some minute show. A couple of hours after I finished the Diamond Report, not last night but the night before, is when the two largest earthquakes in the last several days occurred. So of course I missed it because number one, I'd finished recording the show, but I didn't do an earthquake update that night anyway. But it wouldn't have mattered because those two earthquakes had not happened yet. The first of which was a magnitude 6 at Yellowstone. So let's take a look at that. Let's go back in time here just a little. And there it is. I'm going to take these smaller quakes off so you can see it. It's actually a magnitude 5.8. Basically a 6.0. Now, if you've been watching the earthquake updates that I do, or if you watch Dutch Sense at all, you'll know that the North American craton extends down through North America here, covering a majority of the continent, a majority of the United States at least, and usually earthquakes push from the Western Pacific up through Alaska and then down the U.S. West Coast. Now, in the case of this magnitude 5.8 that struck at Yellowstone, officially it happened at 1:30 in the morning, that's Central Time, on July 6th. So what's strange to me is that there was no preceding quake along the West Coast. Now, if you watch Dutch Sense at all, or if you watch him regularly, you may know that a few days prior to this magnitude 6 at Yellowstone, or I'm calling it a 6, it's 5.8, less than a week before this occurred, there was a magnitude 7 up here in a place called Nunavut. And that's these islands. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. It may just be this island right here, this one. There was a magnitude 7 earthquake up here that occurred, and it showed up on at least one earthquake feed, maybe more than one, and Dutch Sense reported on it, and then all of a sudden it vanished, and it was deleted off of the earthquake feeds. And then he warned that at that time, when the magnitude 7 occurred, that we would likely see another larger quake occur south of there in the U.S. And lo and behold, we have the 5.8 that struck Yellowstone just a few days later. So what I'm saying is, there was a magnitude 7 that occurred up here, north of Canada, in the Arctic Circle. And then just a few days later, after that 7.0 was deleted from the earthquake feeds, you have the 6.0 down here at Yellowstone. Now, you know, you can I guess glean whatever you want to from that. I'm not convinced that this magnitude 7 up here was a natural earthquake. I think that it very well could have been some sort of tectonic weapon or something, and then they deleted it off of the feed so that no one would notice, and yet people did notice, because Dutch picked it up, and of course he has a pretty large audience. I think it probably did happen, and it was deleted off the feed for whatever reason, and then a few days later this one down here at Yellowstone shows up. Now Dutch mentioned that he thought that the 7.0 occurred as a result of Bogoslav out here in the Aleutian Islands of Alaska blasting off, that this 7.0 possibly occurred because of that, and that may be the case, but it seems a little strange to me that you'd have that happen up there and then have it be deleted off the feeds, and then have a magnitude, almost magnitude 6.0 just show up out of nowhere in Yellowstone. Because typically what happens is the earthquakes happen along the west coast, and they filter over several days' time from the west coast to the east coast. And we've talked about that many, many times. It goes right along the edge of the North American craton. Anyway, all that to say, I'm not really sure why this magnitude 5.8 at Yellowstone occurred, other than, to me, it looks really suspicious. I don't necessarily think this one was a tectonic weapon. I think this is a result of natural pressure transfer from one place to another, this being the weak point for whatever reason, but it's probably a result of this deleted 7.0 or 7.1 or whatever it was that occurred a few days prior. So anyway, I think that's a pretty interesting take on what occurred there. And of course, you know, I've been watching earthquakes for quite a while now, a couple of years at least, and this is the largest earthquake that I have seen hit the United States since I've been watching, and this, you know, magnitude 5.8 that just popped up out of nowhere. And then a few minutes later, let's see here, this was, yeah, well actually it's about 2 hours, about an hour and a half later, I guess, at 3 o'clock a.m. on the same morning, you have this magnitude 6.3, which many places were reporting it 7.0. Let me adjust this up a little bit here. I think officially it was a 6.5. There you see a 6.8 reading. The reason there are several readings here on this one earthquake is because you have multiple agencies reporting the same quake, and they vary a little bit from magnitude to magnitude, from reporting center to reporting center. I think officially it was a 6.5. To me, it's closer to a 7, because there were some reporting centers that were reporting it as a 7 and 7.1, 7.2. This is on land at the Philippines, and if you followed the headlines and all, you'll know that a couple people were killed, and there was significant damage because of where this struck. Now again, this one occurred about an hour and a half after the one over here in Yellowstone. This is in a region that we've seen a lot of movement in, and speaking of deleted quakes, we had another deleted earthquake that occurred down here to the west of Papua New Guinea. Let me adjust the rings down a little so you can see. Right down in here, the western part of Papua New Guinea, just to the west of there, and also I guess it would be considered Indonesia officially, and I had posted that on my Facebook page because Dutch Sense had reported on that one as well, the night that I had done an earthquake update talking about a very deep magnitude 5 point, let me see what it was. I think it was a 5.2 out here near Fiji. Let me find it. Yeah, it's this pink one out here. But this deep magnitude 5.2 out here near Fiji would result in larger, shallower movement to the north and west. And no sooner did I say that, I was actually rendering my completed show for the night, and we had a magnitude 7 strike right here, about where these pink ones are here. Let me adjust this back up so they go away. But that earthquake also had been deleted off the feeds. So we had a magnitude 7 over here in the area that I had mentioned, Indonesia, as one of the silent zones to watch for a magnitude 7 I think I said 6.2 to 7.2, and it was like a 7 or 7.1 or something. And then magically, that quake gets deleted from the feeds as well. But the reason that we know it did happen is because the follow-up quake to the one that disappeared there is this one that did strike at the Philippines, this magnitude 6.5 or 7. So we had this near 7 occurred just a day or two after the 7.0 down here that was deleted that I had mentioned we would see. So, you know, that's 2 cases now where we have an actual quake that showed up that everybody knows occurred because it's in the news everywhere and everything. And they were, these quakes happened back to back with a quake that was disappeared or memory hold from the earthquake feeds just a day or two before that. So we've got 2 cases of that now. One here at the Philippines and Indonesia. And then, as I mentioned, the other one up here at Yellowstone and north of Canada up here. Anyways, I don't know. The whole thing's really strange. We do have quite a few other 5.0s that you can see. Here's a near 6 that has occurred as well. So we've got quite a bit of further movement. We've got the last 48 hours kind of looks like this. Normally we look at the last 48 hours, magnitude 2.0 and greater. We don't have any other larger quakes that have occurred since then. Most of this looks like pretty standard movement that we see. Chile is always active, just like you know, Western Turkey and Italy and Greece. Those areas are always active, pretty much 2s and 3s throughout there. So I won't spend a lot of time on that, but just know that now we've got situations where we're having large earthquakes that are being disappeared off of feeds, and then a few days later or a few hours later, another one in an adjacent silent zone shows up that's just as large. Pretty weird, but anyway, I just thought I'd let you know about all that crazy stuff, and let's move on to the headlines. CNN staff reeling after personal info leaked. Frustration is the predominant feeling inside CNN, the Mirror has learned. That's on Daily Caller. And on Breitbart, U.S. commander in South Korea says we're prepared for war with North Korea. Self-restraint, which is a choice, is all that separates armistice and war. So it looks like and sounds like to me they're trying to make this whole thing inevitable, that we simply must go to war with North Korea. So false flag beware. We need to keep our eyes out, keep a sharp eye on any sort of nonsense that's bound to happen here that they can blame on North Korea. And of course will most likely be propagated by us, the U.S., or the military-industrial complex at the very least. And pro-open borders George Clooney is leaving the UK amid terror fears. Subversive elitists fleeing the mess they helped create. That sounds about right. From RT, very, very bad behavior. Trump vows consequences over North Korea missile launch. And even more craziness, Trump says the West faces an existential challenge to defend our civilization. The fundamental question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive. Yeah, that is a fundamental question, but you know, who knows for sure if we're even being told the truth about North Korea and what's actually going on. Trump comments on CNN blackmail. They have some very serious problems. Yes, they certainly do. It's called fake news, or VFN, very fake news. Trump donates the presidential salary to restoring Civil War battlefield. This is on the Daily Caller. President fulfills promise not to keep rightful wage. Newsweek bashes Trump for vowing to, quote, defend the West. China's surveillance plans include 600 million closed-circuit TV cameras nationwide and pervasive facial recognition. This is on Tech Dirt. Trump in Europe slams Obama for doing nothing amid Russia election meddling. The reason is he thought Hillary was going to win, and also the fact that Russia did nothing to meddle in our election. No joke, French President Macron declares himself God, another elite globalist who thinks he is superior to everyone else. CNN's blackmail scandal is a new low for journalism. Top globalist news network continues losing the trust of American people. Vatican rocked. Police raid drug-fueled gay orgy at Cardinal's apartment. Just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it? DNA from sharks that live to 400 could hold secret to long life. This is on the Daily Mail. I don't think there's too many sharks living to be 400 these days. They're all starving because the oceans, the ecosystem within the oceans are totally collapsing. Twitter triggered when the Declaration of Independence was tweeted. Many internet users were deeply offended by the words of America's founding fathers. Well, they just need to get over it. Bunch of crybabies. Elon Musk says the world's population is accelerating toward collapse and nobody cares. We could be headed toward disastrous outcome where population simply does not replace itself fast enough. I think that's the whole idea behind depopulation and eugenics agenda. And you can chalk up another article for the Mars and Antarctica stories that we talk about a lot. Mars' surface is more uninhabitable than thought. That's according to a study. Salts on Mars kill bacteria. Trump says Poland's Christianity key to defeating globalism and jihad. President praises Polish nationalism and Christian heritage. Rich, educated white people protest Trump in D.C. 50% of respondents with an income greater than $100,000 per year participated in protests. Well, they might be making pretty good money, but they have no clue how the real world works and must be persistent buyers of the peddlers of the fake news. In other words, they probably go home and watch CNN. Trump plans to make America a dominant energy player. Energy policies to tap into America's rich energy resources, creating wealth and jobs. This is on Epoch Times. Trump administration authorizes strikes on Iranian-backed forces. This is on the Free Beacon. You are being poisoned by transhumanists. The global elite are intentionally sterilizing humans. InfoWars forced the gay Vatican orgy into the mainstream. Another major scandal unearthed by the mainstream media, which of course they're just following suit after people like InfoWars and others talk about stuff that the MSM would not normally talk about. Qualcomm asks U.S. to ban iPhone imports. The company is accusing Apple of infringing on its patents. It's on the Hill. Watch, Charlie Gard family friend sends urgent message to Trump, please save this baby. Democrats fear-mongering over Medicaid ignores just how bad the program is. That's on the Daily Signal. Warning, your genes are under transgenic globalist attack. The globalists are using humanity as a giant science experiment. Yep. From the air to the water to the food to almost every aspect of life. Yes, that's very true. And more Mars. Toxic chemicals on Mars could put human missions in doubt. That's on the Daily Mail. Missouri blocks cities from setting minimum wage. Average low-wage worker lost $125 a month due to the hike. Tax collectors in Florida openly carry guns while public is banned from doing so. That's on shtfplan.com. If you're leery about government intervention in your life and you know that taxation is theft, this article will probably strike a nerve. Putin and Trump shake hands ahead of first face-to-face meeting at G20. Trump says everyone in Germany is talking about Podesta and the DNC server. CNN's primetime shows get fewer viewers than decade-old reruns of Yogi Bear. Well, I would much rather watch Yogi Bear than CNN. Polish president slams fake news. His wife snubbed Trump. Leftist seize on another lie to demean Trump. That's on Zero Hedge. Bankrupt Illinois. Beginning of the end for Democratic Party's social welfare experiment. It's from Jerome Corsi. G20 hell. Hamburg explodes in fire and chaos. Leaders and wives trapped. City on fire at G20. California death spiral continues as liberal elite drive out conservatives. Linda Sarsour calls for jihad in America. Terrorist sympathizer pushes for Islamic war against the U.S. Melania Trump trapped in a hotel as protesters surround the building at G20. Spokesperson for the U.S. delegation says they were unable to get clearance for the First Lady to leave the hotel. That's on The Independent. Zombie hordes and violent protests greet Trump at G20. Communist thugs attacked police and others. Self-proclaimed God King Macron gives his first edict. Ban gas and diesel engines. Trump says Mexico will absolutely pay for the wall while seated next to the Mexican president. Breaking, U.S. and Russia reach a deal on Syria ceasefire. Huge Trump victory. I don't know about that. We'll see. Google throws party in D.C. for digital Democrats next week. Google and Soros fight to keep net neutrality rules to control the internet and censor InfoWars. Knife-wielding man arrested at Trump Tower sought Ivanka meeting. U.S. adds 222,000 jobs in June, hiring surge. Increase in new jobs was the largest in 4 months. I don't know if I buy that one. Refugee arrivals now at 49,793. That's 937 since the Supreme Court decision. U.S. bombers fly over South China Sea in latest challenge to Beijing. U.S. to press for new sanctions against North Korea. Conservatives revolt over talk of keeping Obamacare tax. Rand Paul is going to war with his own party. George Clooney is a complete idiot. Well, tell me something we don't know. Author says Black Lives Matter activists motivate police shootings. Doctors say new chocolate snorting trend could have deadly consequences. Coco Loco powder made up mostly of chocolate. Well, there's a new one. Veterans Traffic Court gives special consideration to those who served. High-tech beanie could allow humans to achieve telepathy within a decade, experts claim. It's on the Daily Mail. Facebook is building a village that will include housing, a grocery store, and a hotel. Boy, you can count me out. I wouldn't want to live there. Internet giant wants to build housing and retail stores and a hotel and more at its corporate headquarters. Globalists wage war on Christians to destroy their ability to create truth. Christians are one of the main targets of the global elite. Yes, and Satan himself. Okay, that's all for the Diamond Report. Thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.